Yeah, excited to be here. Always a great time for us as coaches to try to put our heads together and keep making our game better. I would like to give a shout out to Laura Rutledge. I found out this morning that she is going to be moving on to, away from her SEC duties, but have a lot of respect for her. Feel like she and I have been in the SEC the same amount of time with the tenure I've had and the tenure she's had. She's a good friend and a lot of respect for the work she's done. So appreciate her service and wish her nothing but the best moving on.
Kirby, with the shift we're starting this season with some of these bigger non-conference games going to neutral site, what is your appetite for that as opposed to keeping them home and home, especially the fact you play Florida neutral site?
Six one half dozen another. I love the games, so it's not a matter whether it's home and home or neutral site. I think, you ask the fan base, you could get a interesting dynamic. Everybody wants to go to another campus. Everybody wants to have an extra home game for a non-conference. Great game, but everybody likes neutral site games too. So these opportunities to go to a different place, Jacksonville, Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, to say the least, they're really cool experiences for our fan base to go to a place they don't traditionally go to. So I'm more interested in the matchup than I am where it is. I don't really care if it's neutral site or home and home. I just hate that I feel like we're all gravitating away from these because of appearance to the committee. I gotta win. I can't have a loss. I can't play the schedule I want to play. I can't. I got 9 games in the conference, so now we're moving away. That concerns me more than where that game is. I could care less if it's home and home or neutral site.
Kirby, tons of issues. Where do you think the conversation should start here at the SEC spring meetings in terms of everything that's on the table with the landscape?
There's too many issues to say where it should start. I mean, my biggest concern is the health of the game and the health of the student athletes and what's best for them. And I don't. There's so many things that you want to talk about and so many things we want to share and say, hey, this is our stance as a league. Because within the league, there's not perfect uniformity. I mean, everybody's not in agreement of what's best for their program. And I think as long as we acknowledge differences and can give a opinion as a league and say this is our stance, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Look, we don't come in here and everybody's like, well, what's the decision? We don't make the decision. We merely just have a point of view, and we try to share that with rules makers for what we think is best. But it's natural with all human nature. It's self-preservation, and people make decisions based on what gives them the best opportunity to have success. And sometimes that's unfortunate. I've been in this conference a long time and listened to Coach Saban come out of these meetings a long time. It can't always be what's best for self-preservation. It has to be what's best for the game. And sometimes people get caught up in the middle of that.
How do you feel about the SEC championship game?
Yeah, I love the SEC championship game. I've been a big fan of that. I grew up watching it. I've talked about it many times, almost ad nauseum. I mean, the first time they ever played in Birmingham, I was in high school playoff playing a Final Four football game and watching Florida and Alabama play. And at the time, that was like a childhood dream. Long time since then, and a lot of changes since then. So is it the revenue stream that we're having to fund our athletic programs with that we need because of it? Is it the calendar that we need to shrink so we're not playing a championship game on late January? And I don't think that's great for student athletes. I don't think it's great for the transfer portal to be ending the season that late. And if that championship game is in the way of that or gets put on the back burner because of that, I think you'd have to accept it. But I'm really more worried about the financial burden that we're under right now of paying for all of the athletic department. And when you take that revenue stream out, can we make it work? And that, is it sustainable to do without it would be my biggest concern.
But so much that's changed, in college football just in the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And the decisions that had to be made even on a local level in the SEC. So, for example, going from 8 conference games to 9 conference games, and then playoff doesn't expand. Is there anything just in the last few years you had a stance on that maybe has changed? And you look back and go, man, I wish we would have waited a little bit longer on that?
Yeah, I can't say that definitively. I mean, the only thing that jumps out to me is I've always been, even when I worked for Nick for 10 years, 11 years, that we wanted to go to 9-game conference schedule. That the appetite was much better for our fan base for television networks, for the conference, to go to 9 games. And that was before we had as many teams in the conference as we do now. I felt like a 9-game would be help and be beneficial. And that was with a 4-game playoff. I think might have been with a 2-game playoff some of the way, because it was just the old system. Now, you could say there may be regret in there going to 9, because I don't know that I'm not blaming the committee, I'm blaming the system, that I don't know that they can recognize and acknowledge truly, say, strength of schedule matters, and you're putting a team with one more loss in their column over a team that might have one less and didn't play the same schedule. I don't know that they're ever going to be able to find a format that works in that. So that's what's driven the expansion. And you could say, all right, going to 9, are we going to get the reward or bang for the buck on the strength of schedule that would equal the 12 that we currently have?
What's the right size for the playoff?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know that that's a decision that I think a lot of people got to make. What's your driving factor? Is it totally revenue? Is it TV? Is it the student athletes that are playing forever? Is it what is your main purpose? I do agree with Commissioner Sankey that we're not a tournament sport. That's really not what we are. Okay, you can say, well, what about the old 1AA? What about high school playoffs? Theirs are different now. They don't play as many games as we do in a regular season. So it's really what's your driving force, because it could be monetary at the moment we're in right now, because I am not for cutting sports. I am not for hurting other college athletic programs and seeing them dwindle. I think way too many student athletes get opportunities in college because of let's call them Olympic sports or non-revenue sports, and if we have to be the catalyst for that because of the finances, then let's do it.
You said that your teams were a shell of you said that Alabama and Georgia were kind of a shell of the first game with the injuries, and now the 9-game schedule and the SEC championship game. There's been clearly attrition. You lost a quarterback a couple of years ago. Coach Drinkwood said that the best teams don't necessarily win the college football playoff. Would you agree with that? And how does that fit into your thoughts on the SEC championship game of the 9 games?
Yeah, I don't know that I would say we were a shell of ourselves. We had injuries. They had injuries. Everybody had injuries at the end of the year, but we had injuries after the game too that continued on. So you continue to have them as it goes longer. I think that's true in probably any sport, but also true in football. To say that sometimes the best team doesn't win the national championship, I don't know if I agree with that, because with what you do now in the playoffs and the games you have to win, I think the cream comes to the top. The best team comes out and wins. It's who's playing the best at the end. It might not be who's playing the best in the beginning, but that's who wins the championship. That's who wins it every year in basketball. It's the team that plays the best at the end.
Kirby, your president had some pretty pointed comments about frustrations with the system and breaking away. I'm curious your thoughts on that, and do you think the problems are the rules or the people who don't have a willingness to follow?
Well, the second part of the question I don't have an answer to, but I've said this for a long time to our president. I've been a huge advocate that if we can't find rules that everybody plays by, then we should play our own. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid to break away and say that our conference is strong enough to go out and play. I mean, if we could actually function and it financially would make our programs more stable and we could support things financially, I'm talking about all the sports, and do by our own rules, I'd be all for that. I mean, I've been to this meeting now 10, 11 times, and it's frustrating at times to say, well, we can't do this because of litigation. We can't do this because of litigation. We can't do this because we'll get sued. We can't do that. And we're just trying to do things for the betterment of the sport and the betterment of the student athletes. And that's not curtailing what money they make. I'm not advocating that they make less money. I'm fine with what student athletes make. I'm trying to make it where it's as equal and as comparable footing for everybody, and it's not a race to the bottom, as they say. Second part of your question was?
Basically, is the fault of the rules, or is there just a general willingness for people to try to end around that? That's been
Well, there's 100%. That goes back to the self-preservation. And if I can self-preserve by making my schedule easier, doing this, circumventing the rules. But there's been circumvention of the rules the entire time. There's always somebody trying to. It's the policing of that and the navigating to make people follow within the guidelines. And what's happened with litigation is there are no guidelines. I'll just go to court. I'll just go to court. I'll just go to court on everything, not just player eligibility, but on everything. It's a lawsuit away from everybody backing down, and so they strip the power from any regulatory agency that we would put in place. So at some point, you got to be able to say, how do we want to do this?
What rules would you like to see that you feel like can't be enacted at a national
It's too many to say. I mean, there's so many things that I think could be done to make it better if we were servicing similar programs. The Power Four teams. I think 5 for 5 would be good. I think we got kids losing opportunities. I am an advocate of high school kids getting an opportunity to go to college and play, and we're losing seats in space because of the lawsuit. We were reduced. So I go into these high schools, and teams went from 130 to 105. Everybody goes 130 to 105. The math is 25 per program. That's a ton of seats that were lost, and now we're losing more because kids are staying longer than 5 years, which really started with the COVID deal. So I would start with let's don't take opportunities away from people, because it's going to ruin the game at a younger age. People are going to flee the game because they don't get the chance at the dreams and the opportunities that they originally started the game for.
Kirby, you're going to have a $40 million roster in college football this year.
Oh, yeah, we had $40 million last year.
Yeah, sure. And then there's going to be $60 million maybe next year too. Do you think that there should be a limit on rev sharing?
Well, there is a limit in rev sharing. I mean, technically, I know there is, but there's not, right? So what's going to change that if we put a limit on it?
Do you think the limit should be removed?
I don't think it goes back to everybody's going to talk about pro sports and baseball and these teams that spend. I mean, we are like them, but we're not like them. So you can't make comparison because of the CBA and the regulatory agencies they have that govern theirs. They operate under different premise. But we're becoming them. Our spending is rapidly becoming them. Again, my biggest concern for our sport is we're going to ruin all the other sports. And people say, well, that's just the way it is. I don't agree with that, because we fund Olympic sports at our program. We develop Olympians. We go to class with people that go throw a javelin. We go sit in class next to a person that swims and dives. You learn culture by being with those people. But that's the assumption that we're talking about student athletes, which most of y'all would argue in this room that there is no student in the athlete. I still think that the best thing for a young student is to go get a degree and train to be a professional while also training to be a professional athlete. Both of those. We're going to lose that if we keep spending, because not everybody can spend at the rate we're spending at.
Kirby, can the regular season of football ever be diluted or weakened
Sure.
with 24 teams or more?
Absolutely it can. But I'm going to go back to self-preservation, because if you ask enough people, they want an opportunity to be in the party. And if they don't make the party, they get fired. So then they're worried about the party, not the dilution of the market. So there's competing interests here that I think are unfortunate. I don't want it to be a diluted market. I think there's going to be more blowouts if that happens. It's going to happen, but that happened in the old model. I mean, let's be honest. It happened with 12 before. So you're not going to get perfect games, perfect scenarios, but there will be games that lose some of their meaning leading up to that. But maybe there's more great games in a 2014 model than there are in the 12 or the 16. I don't know. I'm not here to decide how many teams should be in it. I would much rather talk about how the teams are decided that are in it.
Is there a way to have the committee reward a harder schedule, punish a weaker schedule? I know the league.
Is there a way to?
Yeah. How do you
Selection process.
But how do you change it to make them do that?
I don't know that we can change it to make them do that. It's the integrity of the people that are in that room and the judgment of the people that are in the room, who also have biases. And you can say they're removed. They don't have to be in there. They don't have to do it. But they still have people in the room have biases. And so I don't know that you're ever going to have that. You've had that same bias when it was 4. I got left out of the 4 several times and thought I had the best team in the country, and didn't get to go cry about it, scream about it, and get upset about it. It was what it was. You had to accept it. That's the way it is now. So it's probably going to always be that way regardless of the number. We all know that after 24, somebody's going to be left out. I think we saw this year that in the 12, somebody that was on the back end of the 12 almost won it, could have won it. In Miami. So we're going to see more and more some great games. I mean, I'm excited about that part, but I don't know how we solve the selection process, because someone will always argue with it. You'd like to have it on the field.
One more question.
Under the current structure, 12 bye teams are 1 and 7. Do you see that as a fluke or a flaw in the structure as far as the rest versus rusting?
I don't.
You're obviously involved in that.
Yeah, I've been involved in that for 2 of those. Absolutely. So I'd like to. I am a big fan of continuing the season in continual motion, meaning taking out the long break. You can say for obvious reasons, but I just think football's played that way. I don't think football's played to have a 24, 27-day break. We had that too in the past. I've been a part of the long breaks for years at Alabama and Georgia when it was 4 teams, and we usually were successful with that. It's not a matter of my independent want or need or success. It's about what's best. And football is not meant to be played in a month gap. There's no real competitive sport that I can find anywhere where you take a month off and then continue. That's just unusual. So solving that in the calendar and moving things up to week 0 and getting a calendar where it plays throughout, I think plays to everybody's favor, including the student athlete.
Thank you, Coach.